Welcome, focused learners, to this explainer. Let's jump right in, because today we're tackling a subject that has literally obsessed humanity for generations. We're going to break down the complex, sometimes totally contradictory mechanics of time travel as they're presented in fiction, and then we're going to investigate some of those mind-bending, real-world claims of time travel that have completely taken over the internet. The concept of time is an absolute wild ride, so let's get into it. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We've got time travel mechanics, paradoxes and space-time complications, the temporal dilemma, time travelers caught on film, debunking the urban legends, and we'll wrap up with the ultimate time machine. Starting off with Section 1, Time Travel Mechanics. Let's look at the foundational rules that pop culture has basically drilled into our heads. Because, in fiction, you can't just close your eyes and wish yourself into the past. There's always a strict method to the madness. Creators always establish these incredibly rigid mechanical rules. Take Back to the Future. Doc Brown built a time machine out of a DeLorean, sure, for style, but it fundamentally requires a flux capacitor, it has to hit exactly 88 miles per hour, and it needs a massive 1.21 gigawatts of power, usually from a nuclear reaction. Or look at the Flash universe, where physics literally fights back. If a speedster recklessly alters the timeline, these terrifying time wraiths are sent out to hunt them down. And it's not just live action. We see this brilliantly portrayed in 2D animation styles as well. In the 2D anime world of Dragon Ball Super, the rules are strictly divine. Only Supreme Kais possess these specific time rings. And here's the catch. While those rings let you travel into the future, traveling to the past is strictly forbidden, even for literal deities, just because of the massive universe-breaking complexities it creates. Which brings us right to Section 2, Paradoxes and Space-Time Complications. What's super interesting about breaking the timeline is just how quickly all those established rules completely fall apart the second we actually start messing with the past. Think about the plot of Back to the Future Part 2. The characters in The Big Bang Theory actually dissected this perfectly. When Biff steals the sports almanac in 2015 and gives it to his younger self in 1955, it creates a hilariously confusing grammatical nightmare. If he changes the past, the 2015 he travels back to isn't the same one he left. You're forced to use these bizarre, headache-inducing verb tenses like had, will, have, placed, because delivering that almanac spawned a completely alternate reality. And that right there is a perfect illustration of the bootstrap paradox. Take that iconic scene where Marty McFly plays Johnny B. Good at the 1955 school dance. Marvin Berry holds up his phone so his cousin, Chuck Berry, can hear this crazy new sound. But wait, think about the implications for a second. Chuck Berry hears the song from Marty, but Marty only knows the song because Chuck Berry supposedly wrote it in the future. So who actually wrote the song? Nobody. The information is just stuck in this infinite self-creating loop. Mind-blowing, right? But honestly, even scarier than a rock song that wrote itself is the grandfather paradox. This is the classic nightmare scenario where a time traveler goes back and accidentally changes the past in a way that prevents their own existence. If Marty McFly's parents never dance, they never kiss, they never fall in love. And because of that, Marty literally starts fading into nothingness. Because logically, if you stop yourself from being born, you don't exist to travel back in time to stop yourself from being born. It is a total logical collapse. The best way to picture the space-time continuum is like a ceramic coffee cup. The second you travel back in time, you drop it. It shatters. Now you can try to reset the timeline, you can try to glue all those little pieces back together, but no matter what you do, it is never, ever going to be exactly the same as it was before you interfered. So moving to Section 3, the temporal dilemma. Having this kind of godlike power creates some really massive risks and rewards, bringing along a seriously heavy ethical burden. We really have to weigh these deeply human rewards against some truly catastrophic risks. In the 1978 Superman film, Superman disobeys his father's cosmic rules, flying around the Earth to turn back time just to save Lois Lane from an earthquake. And we get it. The appeal is obvious. We all want to fix our mistakes, prevent tragedies, or to spend 5 more minutes with a lost loved one. But the risks? You could accidentally become your own grandfather, wipe your entire family line from existence, or fundamentally destroy human motivation altogether. And this introduces a highly complex dilemma when we look at dark, tragic historical events. Take the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. As impartial observers, we have to recognize a really difficult truth. While that event was undeniably horrific, erasing that tragedy from the timeline could inadvertently erase the subsequent, hard-fought equal rights legislation and the vital societal progress that was born directly from the nation's reaction to that trauma. Changing history means you're erasing the progress shaped by those exact historical catalysts. Ultimately, time travel might just cause way more problems than it solves.
Okay, on to section 4, time travelers caught on film. Let's pivot to the real world and look at actual claimed temporal anomalies. Because despite all those risks we just talked about, humanity desperately wants to believe people are actually pulling this off.
The internet is absolutely flooded with these baffling mysteries and conspiracy theories claiming definitive proof of time travel. Have you heard the story of Rudolph Fentz? He supposedly materialized right in the middle of Times Square in 1950, staring in absolute shock at the cars before he was tragically hit by a taxi. The crazy part? His pockets were filled with 1876 currency in perfect mint condition, along with a letter postmarked from that exact same year. Or how about Andrew Carlson? In 2003, the FBI supposedly arrested him for insider trading after he miraculously turned $800 into a $350 million portfolio in just 2 weeks. He claimed he was from 250 years in the future. Someone mysteriously paid his $1 million bail, and he vanished without a trace.
And then we have the photographic evidence. There's this 1928 bonus footage from a Charlie Chaplin film premiere showing a woman casually strolling by, seemingly talking on a cell phone. Or the famous 1995 Mike Tyson fight, where a spectator is clearly holding what looks exactly like a modern smartphone with a top left camera lens. It really forces you to ask, are there future humans hiding in plain sight right now, just documenting our history?
Well, let's get into Section 5, Debunking the Urban Legends. It's time to pull the rug out and look at the cold, hard facts behind these viral sensations. Because the truth, it's usually a lot less supernatural, but honestly, it's still fascinating. A quick investigation totally unravels these legends. Rudolph Fentz? Completely fictional. He was a character lifted straight from a 1951 sci-fi short story by Jack Finney called I'm Scared. Andrew Carlson, our time-traveling stockbroker, originated from a satirical piece in the Weekly World News that got mistakenly picked up by mainstream outlets as real news. And what about that famous 12th century Spanish cathedral in Salamanca that has a literal modern Apollo astronaut carved into the stone? It wasn't some 900-year-old premonition. It was literally just a modern artist adding a cheeky little detail during a 1992 restoration project. But then we have the legendary 1940s hipster photo. This was taken at a bridge reopening in Canada, and this genuine, unaltered museum photograph went completely viral. Why? Because of 4 incredibly modern-looking anomalies. This guy is sporting a very modern haircut, wraparound sunglasses, what looks like a printed graphic tee, and he's holding a small, portable camera that looks like it belongs decades in the future. But here is the reality check. Every single one of those items was readily available in 1940. The graphic tee is actually just an embroidered Montreal Maroons hockey sweater, a team that played right up until 1938. Those glasses, protective side shield sunglasses, existed back then to keep out wind and debris. And that portable camera, while definitely unusual and pretty expensive for the time, was entirely possible to own. So no, he wasn't a time traveler. The guy just had really great forward-thinking fashion sense. The same logic applies to our video evidence. That supposed 1928 cell phone user in the Chaplin footage, it was just a woman using an early, commercially available rectangular hearing aid. That's why she was holding this bulky black device up to her ear. And the smartphone at the 95 Tyson fight, it was just an early digital camera, most likely a Casio model, which was specifically designed with a vertical shape and a corner lens, looking exactly like a modern phone, but functioning perfectly as a camcorder of that era. Which brings us to our final section, Section 6, the ultimate time machine. With all these urban legends thoroughly debunked, we arrive at a really profound truth about the human mind. Why are we so desperate for these stories to be real? The answer is actually deeply spiritual. We may never get to physically jump into a DeLorean or use a time ring to travel to the past, but our brains are constantly time traveling. We literally do it every single day through our memories. As our source material beautifully points out, our brains are the biggest time machines we will ever use. In a fraction of a second, we can transport ourselves back to a cherished childhood moment, or propel our minds forward into the future through imagination and hope. And we're so obsessed with these sci-fi stories and internet hoaxes because time is strictly finite. It rules everything we do. You always hear the saying time is money, but that's not actually accurate. Time is infinitely more valuable than money. Wealth can be lost, it can be rebuilt, and it can be lost again. But a lost minute? That is gone forever. You can literally never earn back a single second. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a thought to chew on. Since physics hasn't handed us a working flux capacitor just yet, and you absolutely cannot rewind the clock to fix your past,
How are you going to spend the time you have right now? Are you going to dwell on the broken pieces of the timeline, or will you use your most valuable currency to build something incredible for your future? Thanks for joining me on this one, Focus Learners, and I will see you in the next explainer.